Hello everybody, welcome to a new episode of an easy, useful short history summary, hosted by Luciana, Camila and Matias. Today we're going to be looking at a very specific topic. I'm sure you guys will like it. Today's video was asked by Tom Ritchie, one of our subscribers, who said, "Hey guys, your videos are great, thanks." Hey, thank you for that, Tom. I was wondering if you could make one talking about gender roles during Nazism and Stalinism. That's what we're going to be doing today. So ladies, why don't you take it away?
Hello everybody. Thanks Matthew for your presentation. My name is Camila and I'll tell you everything about women in Nazi society. So to begin with, women played a vital role in the Nazi movement. The Nazis' main concern with women was for their capacity as child bearers, as you can see in this picture. Another important aspect which seemed to have implications for the birth rate was women's clothing. The Nazis condemned the foreign influences of Paris and the United States. Hitler hated Paris fashion, firstly because it was French, but also the styles encouraged an unnaturally slender silhouette, and this was not ideal if you wanted to encourage prolific childbearing. So, no more Paris models, Hitler announced in 1933. And let me tell you that trousers were out too. They were considered too unfeminine. But don't worry, because in this same year, the German Fashion Bureau opened its store in Berlin to give guidance about the kind of clothing that women should wear. How lovely, don't you think? But there's even more, because during this time, women were not allowed to wear makeup, paint their nails, or shave their eyebrows. For this society, the kind of woman who was suitable for the nation's elite to marry was the one who has proved her fitness by sports activity. For the Nazis, the family was the essential basic unit of society. However, they had a tolerant attitude towards unmarried motherhood and the introduction of irretrievable breakdown as a ground for divorce. These two policies were more similar to those of the liberals and even communists, but the Nazi Party welcomed any racially valuable child, regardless of the marital status of its parents, and of course, female opponents and victims of the Nazi racist policies were discriminated against and persecuted. So the limitation of opportunities for women outside home proved to be damaging, because when the Second World War broke out, many women had to assume the role of the breadwinner in the absence of men who were dead, imprisoned, or incapacitated. So many areas of activity were open to women for the first time, including full participation in politics and entry to the legal profession. So here comes the problem, because women became divided between those who resented change, associating it with Bolshevism, and those who accepted it. The German conservatives wanted to restrict women to the 3 Ks. Before pronouncing them, I wanted to tell you that my German is not very good, but I've been practicing. So the 3 Ks are
Kinder, Kirche, Küche.
Let's see the picture. So to sum up, women were finally given the chance to work and study just because of the needs of the Nazi state at the time. What about women during the Stalin period? Did it change, Lou?
Thank you, Cami. Hello, everyone. Now, let's take a quick look at women's role during Stalinism. For the purpose of this analysis, I've taken Rosenthal's article, Love and the Tractor, to analyze it and to see the way in which the article writer exposes the characteristics that women during the Stalin period were supposed to adopt. Let's see. Alright, after the Russian Revolution of 1917, feminists aspired to a wholly restructured society that would see the liberation of women. Although during the Stalin period a female cultural icon rose up, it was part of Stalin's plan to transform the Soviet Union as fast as possible into a complete socialist state. So the idea of transforming the society needed to be linked to the idea of creating a new persona that many people could feel identified with. So what the government did was to make great use of propaganda to fuel the new Soviet woman's trend, right? Okay, in order to illustrate this point, the article writer refers to the Article 122 from the Soviet Union Constitution. So let's take a look at this. Women in the Soviet Union are accorded equal rights with men in all spheres of the economic, state, cultural, social, and political life. The possibility of exercising these rights is ensured to women by granting them an equal right with men to work, payment for work, rest and leisure, social insurance and education, and by state protection of the interests of mother and child, pre-maternity and maternity leave with full pay, and the provision of a wide network of maternity homes, nurseries, and kindergartens. So, to guarantee the economy's prosperity, Stalin had the intention to incorporate women to meet the needs of the labor force for national industrial development. So women became rapidly expected to be part of the workforce outside their homes. Popular literature, for example, portrayed women as muscular heroines who could do anything a man could do. However, many women, being illiterate, could not qualify for the most prestigious jobs, so they were expected to dig ditches or maintain roads in very unfavorable conditions without proper tools and without food or shelter. Alright, but as I told you before, the new emerging concept of Soviet woman was built up based on two concepts: productivity and reproductivity. So now let's take a look at the second concept to see how it was developed during Stalin's period. The new Soviet woman was expected to be a superwoman. She had to juggle multiple tasks like being a responsible citizen, a full-time worker, and a devoted and admirable wife and mother. So massive propaganda campaigns linked women's productive roles with the wife of mother, suggesting that a combination of them was necessary for a woman to acquire real womanhood. However, the worst aspect of Stalin's notion of superwoman was that women were deprived of their right to control their bodies and their decisions by the abortion ban law passed in 1936, which was controversially named the Law of Happy Motherhood. This law aimed at increasing the nation's birth rate to serve the nation's industrialized economy. The Soviet regime denied that childbirth was a personal matter, and they implied that women who failed to bear children were those who lacked faith in the socialist future. Alright, as a conclusion, we can say that even though women in the Stalin period were convinced through media that they were receiving some social, political, and educational benefits, in fact, it was just a plan from the government to improve the nation. So instead of receiving some benefits, women acquired a very unfavorable position, which included the incorporation of them to the workforce, so they had to work outside their homes, and in addition to that, they had to be full-time mothers and wives. So even though they thought they were being benefited, in fact, they were not. So now Mati will talk to you about male body. Let's see.
Hey, thanks for that. That was very, very enlightening. I hope you guys have taken down notes or something. And I know what you may be asking. What about the male bodies? Okay, let's take a minute to analyze that. For that, we're going to take up Klaus Twelate's work on the male body in his second volume. We're going to be analyzing and working with a chapter which he called The Mass and the Race. In this chapter, he briefly describes or discerns the differences between the race and the mass. Now, he says that the qualities of the race are in every detail the precise opposites of the terrors of the mass, and for that, he uses a comparative catalogue of their attributes written by Delma. The first article in the Decalogue of the Race might be the exact opposite to the first article of the Decalogue of the Mass. For example, let's analyze that one. Decalogue of the Race. Number 1. Race is the spirit of grace in landscape, blood and form. So there we have a very clear-cut answer as to what race means for this author. Now, if we look at the first article in the Decalogue of the Mass, we're going to see that Mass is the death of spirit in landscape, blood and form. So you see that we have a very similar wording. In this case, we have that race is the spirit of grace and Mass is the death of spirit. A very contrasting expression. There are behaviors of women and men, as for example that man is willful when he is of race, and the will of the man is feminized according to Delma when he is of the mass, and women of race are passionately submissive and women of the mass are prostitutes according to his word. Now, if we take that into consideration, female and male characteristics, body and sexuality, we're going to see that is a recurrent theme in different analyses. For example, Wilhelm Reich, an Austrian doctor of medicine and a psychoanalyst, said that race clearly denoted a particular sexual orientation. Although he believed that race could be associated with asexuality, there is an important masculine concept of culture embedded in the concept of race, since race was born out of the defense against the mass, a very soldierly image that was present in the fascist culture of that time. Reich also noted that alien race could be interpreted as alien class. That is very interesting if we take into consideration that the doctrines of fascism and the ideas behind Nazism opposed those movements to the mass movements and to the social movements. So then race, as opposed to mass, could also be read as race as opposed to proletariat. As Twelate remarks, it follows from this logic that a man who assigns himself a place in the Aryan or any other quote-unquote higher race is aligning himself in opposition to the lower classes, the mass, the proletarian, the woman, the animal. We can now take a look at the works of two French philosophers, Gilles Deleuze and Pierre Guattari. They said that the opposition between mass and race not only precisely corresponds to that between mass and individual, but it supersedes it, which is why the mass-individual opposition has proved so unuseful in explaining any of the fascist mass phenomena. So how do we explain that fascism and Nazism were a mass phenomena if race was of the utmost importance at those times and the mass was to be avoided at all costs? Well, Deleuze and Guattari came up with an explanation for that. They talked about two types of mass formation, in which the collective and the individual successively enter into different relationships. I propose that we now go back to our main concern, the body. It is stated that the man of superior race needs to dominate in order to retain his body intact. He prevents himself from being torn apart and his bodily interior from emerging into the open by adopting a position of absolute domination. We have to bear this quote in mind, since it offers one of the main reasons why different regimes established in Europe after the First World War, with one clear purpose: to protect and grow the superior race and to wipe out everything that threatened it. Now, what was the main opposition to race in Germany? We have Jewish in opposed to Aryan. And there, three different kinds of barrier are represented when we come to talking about the oppositions of these two types of races, as it was believed back then. We have barriers of class, of gender, and those between the interior and exterior of the individual body. To conclude, according to the author, if imperialism is understood as the highest form of capitalism in Lenin's words, then racism must be seen as a patriarchal domination in its most intense form. That's been all for my part. Now let's jump to the end of the video.
Alright, that's been all for today's video. We hope you like it, you enjoy it, and you find it useful. If you like it, please subscribe here and leave us comments so that we can pass the history course. Okay, what? Oh, we have an extra message. Let's see. Who is he? Hey, it's John Green from Crash Course. I watched your last video and I thought it would be great to have you three invited to one of my episodes. What do you think? Mati? Cami? We have to think about it, right? Okay, we'll see. Okay, thank you all for watching. See you next episode. Bye.